Hi everyone, how are you? Let's give a few minutes or seconds till everybody on the waiting room joins. But while we get started, I'll introduce our special guest today. It's our CFO, Jerome. You can introduce yourself too. And of course, we have Ali here too. Hi everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, everybody. Great to be here. And yeah, thanks, Sophie, for putting this together. Ali for being here as well. Yeah, super quick intro. I'm the CFO. I joined kind of in the late fall here and have been getting up to speed. And yeah, maybe very quick background. I started my career working in banking, and then I had some experience at an ed tech company. And then prior to this, worked at a defense tech company, also in the AI space around readiness. And yeah, it's been an awesome ride so far at micro1, and excited to be here and answer some questions.
Yeah, they did share a lot of interesting questions for you both. So we'll keep it fun and interesting like last time with Will and maybe just jump into the questions directly. Sounds good.
Sounds great. Wow, we have 330 people here. Crazy.
Yeah. A lot of them from all over the world too. That's very fun.
Nice.
Cool. Jerome, I'll make you break the ice with the first question. I think it's a fun one too because if it's about our recent launch for Cortex. So, how will Cortex integrate subjective human expertise like cultural nuance and EQ into the training loop for frontier labs?
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, totally agree. All of these questions are excellent. And Sophie, you and I were kind of talking about this before, that I was like, oh, maybe it'll be a lot of like specific finance, like easy finance questions for me to answer. But unfortunately not. But these are probably a lot more fun and relevant. So yeah, I think in terms of this, it feels like overall the human data space in AI is actually like naturally trending already in this direction, and already has been. And we think it's going to continue to be the case, and with Cortex specifically as well, which I'll touch on. But the first thing is, we're already seeing just AI human data in the AI space overall is going towards more complicated tasks, right? It's not like simple labeling. Is this a cone or cat versus dog? It's already going towards much more complicated tasks that can last 20 minutes, an hour, multiple hours. And so baked into that is already going to be a lot more subjective human expertise. And so I think we're seeing that, and it's going to continue to go in that direction. With regards to Cortex specifically, so Cortex is our vertical where we work with different enterprises that are rolling out AI agents. And AI agents are what we view as longer horizon tasks. So there are many more steps that are happening. The more steps you have, the more complexity there is, and just the more nuance there will be in general. And so I think as we do this more, you're just naturally going to need humans to have a more nuanced view, and that's going to be actually where the majority of the value of what the human work is, the humans expertise is going to be based on that nuance versus just yes or no, is this correct or not. And in fact, there are many tools right now that actually take out the objective expertise, can be automated and is automated in many ways. And so actually this is like a very good thing. And I think the final point is like the subjective expertise that our experts have is actually the most valuable type of expertise. It's the most unique, it's the most sought after, and ultimately it's what's going to make AI the most tangible and useful. And so that's actually like naturally where overall I think the human data market and human data demand is going.
Yeah, and just one small point to add to that. I think Jerome covered it really well. Um, just two nuances to add. One is, I think if you look at any domain, there's almost no domain where there's this objective truth that exists, and there's kind of one answer, and that is the answer that needs to be distilled. Of course, there's exceptions like certain math problems and physics and so forth, and there are physical constraints that you need to abide by, and oftentimes the answer sort of is what it is. So there are exceptions, but in most domains where human creativity and human judgment is used, there you're sort of striving towards the objective truth, but it's this infinite strive towards that. And the human subjective judgment is actually what allows us to get closer to that truth, versus, having the objective answer sort of already exist, and the experts need to just kind of verify that. So I think that's the power and reason why human data is so valuable. And then I think the second thing is, if you look at in the context of Cortex specifically, the bias that certain enterprises have for their workflows is also where the subjective human creativity is very much required. And I'll give you guys one example for an internal evaluation that we have for our AI search module, which is the place where our recruiters go in and search for candidates that actually get assigned to these jobs. One of the important aspects of that search agent is actually understanding the subjectivity on how our recruiters actually go about search, and the fact that there's a very high volume nature of all the jobs that we have, where we need to recruit 50 math experts or 100 lawyers and so forth, versus maybe typical job searches are more so one or two people that are being recruited. So the subjectivity and context of our AI search is sort of explained to the experts that are actually running these evals, because when we run evals, it's also kind of external experts that we're using. And this case is a very kind of good example of a Cortex evaluation pipeline where we're evaluating this agent. So the subjectivity here is that we're kind of describing the workflow that we have, and the specific desires that we have for our AI search module that is very different from, let's say, the typical kind of job search modules that would exist. And the experts come in, they sort of understand that, and then they use their human creativity and subjectivity to actually evaluate the system properly. So really the value lies within these very nuanced subjective judgments being distilled.
Great. Actually, I think you guys both covered a little bit about like domains and Cortex in general. So there was another question also on the form, someone asking, like, with the launch of Cortex, what other domains other than like finance, health, and legal are priority domains?
Yeah, happy to take this one. I think similar to Realm, it's gonna be eventually pretty much all domains, because the goal is to build agents in essentially every economically valuable function, which you can describe as essentially every function in the economy. So ultimately, we will get to a point where every skill set is useful to train agents for Cortex. And I think we're seeing that in our Realm data vertical, where we're creating frontier evals for foundational models, where of course most of our jobs and pipelines are in, where we are already working with hundreds of different domains. And right now these domains are, they're sort of digitally constrained. They're just domains that can mainly work in a computer and a laptop. And as we start to build models that can act in the physical world, that will, by orders of magnitude, increase the number of domains, because obviously there's a lot more domains in the physical world that have nothing to do with using a computer. So that will continue to expand. And the way I would think about Cortex is it will essentially just kind of follow a similar trajectory. And the evaluation pipelines and jobs in Cortex is, instead of evaluating and creating human data for specific domains, we're doing so for specific use cases. So like, for AI lab model improvement pipeline, we may have finance as a domain that we're trying to improve the model on. But on an agent, it might be a very specific use case within finance, which still may require the same finance experts that evaluate the agent. So it's really I think there's going to be a lot of overlap on the set of domains, and the Cortex will essentially take a similar trajectory to have all the domains that Realm has right now. And wow, we
And
have
Ali,
500 people now. Crazy.
yes, and a lot of questions that we have to answer like on the Q&A already. But anyways, like, since you were talking about AI training basically, where Cortex is going, what do you think is the gap now between what AI companies are building and what society needs. And also follow-up question to this one is, how will people recognize micro1's impact in 5 years? I think 5 years maybe is too far for us to even predict right now.
Yeah, Jerome, feel free to add on to this, but I think I think generally the model buildouts and agent buildouts are following where the demand actually is. So I think generally things are quite aligned on like what society is needing, which is, you know, another way of saying where's the demand. And that's how essentially model providers are kind of deciding what to actually improve their models on. And of course, the areas where you can argue there's maybe the most impact or a lot of impact for humanity is medical, finance, and legal. And of course, they each have their own reasons on why they're so impactful. But these are domains that model providers are trying to improve on very quickly, and also where a lot of agents are being built based on these improvements. So, you know, our goal is to kind of go where the demand is in terms of where labs are trying to improve their model capabilities. And I think for our impact 5 years from now, we really want to build the infrastructure for human intelligence, and you know, we want to be the platform where it is the best place to train AI models, as training AI models becomes one of the most important jobs of our lifetime. And we want to, you know, as we've said many times before, we want to really build a great foundation for this new job sector that's emerging, and make sure that experts that are working in the sector are enjoying it and are, you know, are happy as they sort of train models. And you know, if 5 years from now we have hundreds of thousands of experts and maybe even millions that are working at micro1 helping train models in some way, and our happiness index is high, then I think we've done a good job. Jerome, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great response. I think it's also like I really like how the question is positioned. What society needs is like pretty open-ended, and it's also like very dependent on individual views in different societies, right? Like there's so that's a difficult thing to just solve, of saying, hey, AI will provide what society needs, because that's very open-ended, and it's very subjective. What we're seeing the AI companies build is, at least our customers, they're looking to solve economic problems, and they're looking to have high impact, or I should say, yeah, high impact economic solutions, right, that are tangible from a capital perspective. And the idea overall is that society benefits when that happens, right? When the economy does very well, that tends to ideally be good overall for society. And yeah, like to bridge the exact gap is probably a difficult thing to do. But overall, I think we view it as like, hey, if the economy does really well, and if we grow the economy by a lot, that creates a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. That's overall a good thing for society.
Nice. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think in order to do that, and just trying to come up with like a nice flow with all the questions here. So in order to do this, we're using a lot of PhDs expertise globally to change AI development. So an expert here wrote on the questions, what does the world look like if micro1 succeeds, and how do we ensure it's good? So experts' point of view, right?
Yeah, I can jump in, take a first crack at it. I'll say we do have a lot of PhD experts. We also have a lot of non-PhD experts, and I think they're also like extremely important. And I just want to call that out, and you know, playing a huge role in AI development, which is like I think an amazing thing about overall our expert pool. Yeah, and what does the world look like if micro1 succeeds? I think, Ali, you kind of brought this up a little bit. Like there's going in the previous question. We think a lot of human work is going to change, and there will be this new format of doing structured human data as part of work. So I think that's going to be a bigger component of what we see overall. I think also, if we're successful, more broadly, something we spend a lot of time doing, and Ali, you often ask this question, like, where should humanity spend its time? I think we will go towards that direction. We don't necessarily have the answer, but we think humanity should spend its time not doing like boring, repetitive, automated tasks that humans don't want to do, but instead they will spend their time doing things they want to do, like creative thinking, new discoveries, and that's like a really good thing. That's like a more enjoyable way to spend time. So that's, I think, one direction that we see. The second part of the question, which is like, how do we ensure it's good? Again, is like it's hard, right? It's like we're talking about the future, and we don't know, but what we can do to ensure a good outcome, I think, is just focus on the things we can control. And I think, like, kind of two levers in terms of like the role we play in like broader AI development. One is we choose we have a right to choose our customer base. And so I think we've been pretty public about that, and we feel like, well, if we have, we want customers, the ones that are deploying and building AI, we want those companies to be aligned broadly with our society. And so I think that's something we feel pretty strongly about. And then the other one is the actual kind of work that we're willing to do. Should it's like pretty clear what the kinds of pipelines we work on, what it is ultimately we're trying to improve, right? And those should be things that are good for humanity more broadly. I don't know that we've ever had like times where we've said no to a pipeline because it's been bad for humanity, and part of that is because I think we're also working with great customers who are very much aligned with what we want to do. But those are probably the two things I would say, that we can kind of control to ensure a good outcome here.
Yeah, and I think just one more point on what is one of the things that we kind of care about long term, is I think if this goes well, and our hypothesis, which is AI training will become a huge job sector, and some material percentage of the overall human labor will be spent on structured human judgment. If that sort of trend actually happens, I think one of the natural byproducts of that will be human labor. Human labor will actually become a lot more valuable over time. So if you think of the current sort of total spend on human labor, it's about 50 trillion a year in the sort of global economy. I think over time, the the expansion of that as part of global GDP actually increases and accelerates as humans work with agents to make their work more efficient. Like, the example we very often use is the recruiters we have at micro1. I believe are the most powerful recruiters on the planet, and their job is a lot more impactful now. And of course, they're able to hire hundreds of people every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it is, each recruiter. And that naturally means that that they should be paid more, that they're more valuable in their core function, which has now kind of changed, right? And I think we will see this broadly in the economy across hopefully every function, which means that human time will be over time a lot more valuable than it is now, which I think is a good thing, because one of the misconceptions is that we will actually, as we automate these functions throughout the economy, we will sort of shrink the amount of human labor spent, and I think that is by far not true. I think we will actually expand it, because every human will be more expensive. Essentially, their time will be more expensive.
I love that. I think that's a question I get a lot, like on all the channels we connect with experts through, basically. So I think it's a great affirmation, basically. And shifting gears a little bit to the AI training side of things, I think there's a lot of questions on this. And Ali, I'd love to hear like your kind of like predictions here. Like, how do you see AI training evolving to capture contextual judgment and also like experiences people live, rather than just learning from structured data or correct answers?
Yeah, so I think the dimension of scale that we're seeing in human data is now increasing the complexity and horizon of tasks and turning tasks into projects. What that means is if you sort of look at the current experts we get to work with, it's obviously a very broad range of expertise in terms of domains, but also in terms of a kind of skill sets, whether it's undergraduate degrees all the way to professors and doctors and lawyers. We we are in a position where we're very grateful to sort of already work with the top 1% of humanity. Like if you're looking at again these very high level expertise, such as finance experts, surgeons, best surgeons around the world, partners at the best law firms, like these are already the sort of greatest experts that humanity has. So you actually can't go further on this scale of kind of increasing expertise. Of course, there's maybe we have some world-class Nobel Prize winners and so forth join us as well. And so there's a little bit of, there's a little further that we could go, but really we're kind of capped out at this at the expertise level now. So naturally the dimension of scale has to be this notion of increasing the horizon of tasks and going from more simple questions and answers to projects essentially, where the nuance of those experts is actually is distilled. And the example I like to use is think of a law firm. A law firm, when they deliver something to their customer, whether it's some sort of redlining or some memo or whatever it is, they're often gathering the nuances of the judgment of many people within their firm and even outside their firm before they deliver some project. That could be associates, that could be paralegals, it could be outside counsel, it could be some finance, maybe accounting firm. They really gather a bunch of different subjective kind of creative human judgments before they actually deliver something to the customer. So I think the way that we also gather those nuances from experts is by kind of replicating these real world environments where tasks turn into these very complex long horizon projects where a lot of folks actually work on them and a lot of different judgments are used to then ultimately deliver some very long set of rubrics or whatever the data taxonomy is. And I think to your question, Sophie, this is the way that we actually get to really being able to distill the human creativity and human judgment that exists within these workflows is by actually replicating these workflows in the way that they exist in the real world versus versus sort of what it is now, which is just more simple kind of questions and answers and tasks and complex responses, but less so like multi-step projects, if that makes sense. So that's where we see the world going, and that's what we're striving for, which means we will need even more experts and even higher HD, tasks.
Ali, do you think LLM agents will be able to eventually recognize human emotions, integrity, authenticity, and even like connect with those?
Um, I think yes, and I don't think it's in this kind of I don't think it will be in the way that humans are able to assess emotion, but I think it will be in the limits. It will be very close to the way that humans can assess emotion. And if you think about some public models that already exist, which are transcriptions that not only transcribe text but also other attributes that describe one's tone. I mean, these are already kind of examples of models being able to understand human emotion in a way, right? So if you sort of continue on that trajectory, we I think we will get close to human level understanding of emotion. And I think that's actually required for models to be aligned with humans, especially models that act in the physical world. If eventually if you have a robot that lives in your home with you and you're pissed at it, like it should know, right? Or if you're if you're asking it to do something and you need it to kind of do it more quickly than normal, then perhaps it should know to use a little bit more battery to actually get that task done quicker in some urgent case. So I think human emotion will actually be a hugely important input to models that can act in the real world, especially. So yeah, we want to help build these models as well.
Yeah, and on integrity as well, you can mention, if someone's cheating on an AI interview, for example, I think we've got AI that detects that already.
Very true. And also, I think it's already kind of there, like Ali said. So just going to continue, hopefully evolving in the same way. But it's exciting to be like contributing to that, right? We only have like 2 minutes left, so I'm going to skip some of the questions we had planned and just jump into the last one, maybe for Jerome to answer. I think it's very interesting. Someone asked, like, how does micro1 balance its double role capacity in the sense of we have clients we need to please, and also we're dedicated to experts and keeping them at the center of human data, like we like to say.
Yeah. This is a great question, one that we spend a lot of time thinking about. It's actually like somewhat of an easy answer because both really go hand in hand in the sense that we're a human first company. We really value our experts, and as Ali mentioned, like we want this, and we feel like this is the best place for experts to do structured human data work. And so if we treat our experts really well, if we give them meaningful work, and I think everyone here is like feels like really engaged, then really good things will happen. And we already see that. We have like I think what's amazing about our experts is like the amount of referrals we get, the really high, like we look at things like retention, and we measure happiness scores, and it's really important to us that our experts have a great experience. And it's also very self-serving because the best, highest quality data pipelines are going to be based on I think very, very closely related to like the quality and engagement of experts. And so if we have really happy experts, they're going to create like really, really good data. And that's the most valuable thing we can do, I think, for our customers. And so yeah, it's like a pretty, I think the straightforward way is like if our experts are really, really happy, then that's a really good thing. It's like very much in line with what our customers want.
Yeah, and I think since the beginning of micro1, we've sort of made this doc called customers first, and this doc classifies experts and clients as both customers. Like the way we look at experts is that it is just another customer type for us, and just like clients are, just like the labs and enterprises and so forth are. So all the kind of principles we follow to serve our customers or our clients, we also serve in the same way our experts.
I love it. Well, thank you both. I think it's been super interesting. Like we answered a lot of the great questions. Maybe we'll even keep some of the next ones for another session, either with Jerome or someone else on our leadership team. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you both and also the 500 people that stayed here the whole time. Looking forward to the next one.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Good
Thanks,
seeing you
Sophie.
guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thanks for the questions.
Bye.
Bye.